Eagle Mountain, Utah is an absolute hidden gem of a city in Utah. I'm super excited today to talk to you about the pros. There are some cons that might be influential in your decision if you want to live there or not, but there's a lot of upside and future appreciation potential in Eagle Mountain, Utah. Hello, I'm Micah Olson. I am your Utah County YouTubing realtor. I make videos like this for people like you so that you can make a decision on where you want to live in Utah County. So let's jump in and talk about living in Eagle Mountain, Utah. And here's what makes it such a hidden secret. All of the locals, all of the people that live here, when we think of Eagle Mountain, the first thing that comes to mind is, oh, I don't want to live out that far, because back in the day, there was only one road to get there, and it was a little main street with lots of stoplights going all the way west through Lehi, and literally once it took me during rush hour over an hour and a half to get from I-15, the main road that runs through Utah County, out to Eagle Mountain. And so lots of people think, I absolutely can't live there. The traffic is too bad. The time to get there is horrible. There's no stores or shopping, but all of that has changed. Utah has put in 3 major thoroughfares going out to Eagle Mountain. You have the Pony Express Highway, then you have Lehi Main Street, which is kind of the same one that was already there, and then another street called 2100 North that goes, all of those run from I-15 out through and up to Eagle Mountain. And in addition to that, they're completing the Mountain View corridor step by step that gives you very fast access into Salt Lake County and out to the Salt Lake Airport. With all of this growth and residential development, there's been a ton of commercial development as well. Costco and Walmart, lots of restaurants, lots of entertainments, movie theaters, bowling, everything you can think of out there except maybe fine dining. So Eagle Mountain is not your old Eagle Mountain. And a lot of people moving into the area, they see a city with lower prices, with larger homes, with larger lots, that's only about 15 to 20 minutes away from major centers like Thanksgiving Point and Silicon Slopes. That's within about a 30 to 45 minute drive of the Salt Lake International Airport. And they think this is an awesome place. So let's dive in and talk about some of the other pros and cons that you'll find out in Eagle Mountain. Let's start with my number one pro of living in Eagle Mountain, and that's the community atmosphere. My sister moved out there back in the days when it was your old Eagle Mountain that was hard to get to and nothing going on. But they have had just an amazing amount of community activities. Probably the best known is the Pony Express Days, where they have all kinds of shops and vendors and food trucks and a 3-day carnival and movies in the park and family nights. It's really a cool event. But in addition to that, they have an annual Easter egg hunt, they have community cleanup days, they have other movie in the park nights and summer concerts. In the winter time, they have a creche that you can go to and see everybody's nativity sets. They have adaptive trick-or-treating. They put together a great Christmas village. There are things going on all the time out in Eagle Mountain. Now, before I move on to some cons that are fairly major cons, let me just check off a couple of other quick points of pros of living in Eagle Mountain. First one is safety. The national average violent crime rate is 4 per 1,000 people. Pretty high average. In Eagle Mountain, it is less than 1 per 1,000. It's 0.96. So it's a very safe place to live. The economy is also good. I read a report, and I don't know if I quite believe this or not, but they said the average household median income out there is $91,000. Unemployment in Eagle Mountain is 2%, which is virtually nothing. The national average currently is 6%. And Eagle Mountain has a lower cost of living than most major cities in the country. However, with that, I'll give you a slight caveat. It is slightly higher than the U.S. national average for the cost of living. Housing is a little bit higher than the U.S. national average. However, comparing to other large cities, Eagle Mountain's cost of living is pretty good. Now let's jump to just a couple of quick cons of living in Eagle Mountain. First of all, Eagle Mountain is not a walkable city by any stretch of the imagination. You'll get a couple places in Utah, maybe in Orem, maybe in Provo, maybe in downtown Salt Lake, that are somewhat walkable. Utah is not a very walkable friendly town, but Eagle Mountain is even more spread out and even less walkable. You are definitely going to have a car if you're living out here. And like most Utah cities, other than further north up around Salt Lake area, there's very limited nightlife out in Eagle Mountain. We have kind of the homey, fun family things to do. There's bowling, there's movies, you know, things like that. But there's not going to be nightclubs and big parties and bars and things like that to go to. If you're really wanting to immerse yourself in that type of an environment, you probably are going to want to be about 30 to 45 minutes north of Eagle Mountain. Now, before I jump in and give you just an absolute gold mine nugget about Eagle Mountain, I want to talk to you about traffic. I asked my sister, who's lived there, I think for over 10 years, maybe 15 years, what she loves about it, what she hates about it. And she kind of laughed and said she loves the traffic. It's quiet, the roads are calm, you're never really spending a long time to get to stores or schools or church or places like that. And then she laughed and said the thing she really hates about it is traffic. During rush hour time, there is just not a great thoroughfare that distributes traffic. They basically have two roads that crisscross in Eagle Mountain, and then if you're coming from outside of Eagle Mountain, you really only have three major roads going into Eagle Mountain, so drive times can double when it's rush hour. But when you're off rush hour, if you can leave early or if you're coming during the middle of the day or on weekends, from Eagle Mountain ranches, you're probably only about 15 minutes from Silicon Slopes and Thanksgiving Point, but at rush hour you're about 30 minutes. And then from Eagle Mountain City Center, which don't let the center deceive you, it's actually the further out area, you're probably a hair over 20 minutes to get into Thanksgiving Point and Silicon Slopes, but during rush hour, probably around 40 minutes. In general, there's not a lot of traffic. The air is cleaner than some of the other areas in Utah. It's open. There's large open spaces of land. You have mountains on several sides of you. It's a beautiful area. Now let's talk about the super secret reason that I love Eagle Mountain as a place both to live or to buy investment properties. The governor's office at Utah partners with University of Utah and publishes different economic outlooks and reports. They believe that by 2050, so almost 30 years away, Eagle Mountain is going to be the largest city in Utah, both by land mass and population. It is set to absolutely explode. Everywhere you look right now, there's new residential developments, there's new high-density housing going up, townhouses and apartments, there's new shopping centers and commercial, there's new roadways that are being put in, and as you pan out and look out over this entire area, it is vast and open, and this is the place that is going to get the most population growth. They expect Utah to double in population over the next 25 years or so. A lot of that is going to happen out in Eagle Mountain, which makes it a prime place for buying real estate. In addition to the fact that locals kind of think of Eagle Mountain as being out there still. So you've got a place that locals aren't necessarily targeting to buy that's going to have extreme growth over the next 30 years. This is a great place for purchases and long-term holds of real estate in Utah. If you want more information about that, talk to me. I have a soapbox about why I like Eagle Mountain as an investment location. Now let's hit another pro of Eagle Mountain, and that's the access to nature. Now let me put a little disclaimer on this. Eagle Mountain, when I talk about hiking trails and mountain biking trails and walking paths, we are not talking about a forested, woodsy type of an area with a river running down by the path. Eagle Mountain is very deserty and very dry, but still has beautiful vistas, beautiful sunsets. There is a mountain biking park that I love. There are walking trails all through the city. In fact, one thing that a lot of people don't know, Eagle Mountain was built as a master plan community with an overlying HOA. Later on, back maybe 5 years or so ago, they abandoned the HOA, but it was still a master plan layout community. So walking trails and little micro parks here and there, and then larger parks that you can come across as you're walking or biking. They have dirt biking and hiking tracks. It's just a beautiful place with all the parks and the ability to get outdoors and enjoy this natural landscape. Now let's end with one of the worst cons, and this is pretty big for me and for a lot of people in Utah. It almost outweighs some of the pros about Eagle Mountain, and that's education. I think there's a couple of schools in Eagle Mountain that get an 8 out of 10 on great schools, which is good. There's other cities in Utah that have 4 or 5 10 out of 10s, and then some 9 out of 10s, and then some 8 out of 10s. In Eagle Mountain, you have a few schools that are ranking 8 out of 10. The majority of schools are ranking 6 out of 10, which is pretty mediocre. And then there's even some private, like charter schools. I guess technically they're public, but charter schools that rank 3 out of 10. Now, the only redeeming factor for me about this is there is a lot of new growth and new construction of schools that's happening right now. And typically newer schools will naturally have a higher education rating. So I expect the educational ratings to go up over time. But right now, Eagle Mountain kind of has mediocre educational offerings. And there you go. You understand what it's like to live in Eagle Mountain, Utah now. I absolutely love it. It's a very good investment. It's a very good place to move and to enjoy the quality of life with short commute times. I hope that you find this helpful. If you have any questions, just book a free consultation with me down below. I would love to have a conversation. Have a great one.